Welcome to the Heme Consults Orientation video series. This is number 23. Today we're talking about special consultations, and we're talking about consultations from internists. And I love it because I'm an internist at heart, and so I appreciate internists greatly. Recently I had a family member on the surgical service, and it just was such a stark contrast to how we round in internal medicine, where it was lightning rounds, like really lightning rounds, like in the room, out of the room, and it's like, wait, what just happened? Was that the surgical team? So I appreciate internists a lot, especially after that episode. Okay, so 7 considerations when you're thinking about dealing with internists. Okay, it's important for you, first of all, to clarify who the caller is. Most of the time people call, they don't necessarily introduce themselves, they start talking, and it's easy to just assume, oh, it must be the resident or it must be the intern, but it may be the sub-I, it may be the MS2 calling, and they're trying to pretend that they're not the novice that they are. So it's helpful to clarify, say, oh, are you the attending on the team? It's helpful to err on the side of thinking of them as the attending on the team, and maybe they are. And then they'll say, oh, no, I'm the MS2. Like, oh, okay. And it helps you because, if an MS2 is calling, it's a different experience compared to if an MS4 is calling, and compared to if a sub-I is calling or an intern is calling or senior resident. And so remember that you're here to help facilitate education as well, and to provide a safe environment in which the education can occur. So if the sub-I doesn't know much about the patient, clarify, help them think through their consult question. If they don't have a consult question, help them formulate one. But see your role as teaching, not judgment, and create space for them to be able to make mistakes so that you're an agent of their learning rather than an agent of their judgment. Okay, if it's early trainee, again, create space for their learning. If it's an advanced trainee, it's interesting because they may already have a plan. So an advanced trainee is not really calling to say, hematology, what do you think? Not usually. Sometimes they are, but not usually. Sometimes they have a plan. They're calling you because they actually want you to do a bone marrow biopsy. So it's helpful. Say, help me understand how you think we will help you. So that's my next point. Help them narrow down exactly what role you're going to play, because they're internists and they're not afraid of anemia. They're probably not afraid of thrombocytopenia. So it's like, can I clarify for you, what is the consult question that I can help answer that you specifically are not able to answer for yourself? So it's important to clarify that with the internist team. Okay, you want to help them think through the medical issues carefully. So usually if it's a medicine patient, they've got a lot of complex medical comorbidities, which may be playing a role. And so part of your expertise is helping them think through the medical comorbidities and how they might also impact hematologic comorbidities as well. Think about helping your internist manage expectations around communication. So where surgeons tend to have shorter bursts of communication, internists could talk to you all day. And that sometimes manifests in the consult call at 10 a.m., the follow-up with more information at 11:30, the check-in at 1 p.m. to see if you've rounded, the 2 p.m. announcement that the bone marrow biopsy results just came back. A lot of communicating, a lot of sharing, which is fine, except when it interrupts you doing your work. There's there's like 13 teams that want a piece of you. If they're calling you 3 and 4 times a day to give you updates that don't necessarily accelerate or advance your ability to give them a consult recommendation, manage their expectations around communication. Tell them, hey, I'm going to be working between this time and this time on my note. I won't be responding to my chart messages. You can send them to me, just don't have an expectation that I'm going to respond before 5 p.m. If it's urgent, send me a page and I'll return it within 15 minutes. But you really do need to. What I find is a pitfall for many of the fellows is that they're constantly online with so many communication channels going. It is very distracting. And some of those communication channels are not absolutely critical. And so it is helpful for you to manage expectations around when you can be reached, how you can be reached, and what time is reasonable based on when rounds are. For example, we're rounding between 2 and 4, so I won't answer any calls or epic chat messages at that time. If there's an emergency that you think is necessary to interrupt rounds with, call me or page me or something. But usually there isn't. But it's important because they consulted you, and what they need from you is your best recommendation. but they don't recognize that their constant communicating with you is actually preventing you from being able to sit down and think about your best recommendation. So you want to hold them accountable for the outcome they say they want. Say, give me some time between 2 and 4. If it's not urgent, I will call you back at 5 o'clock or something like that. Okay, so anxiety may prevail, and this is actually true of all teams, not just internists. Sometimes people are just really anxious. They're like, you signed off yesterday, and we don't feel like you should have signed off. They're not really saying we have a new consult question. They're just saying we just feel like you should be on board. So definitely think through the fact that sometimes there is anxiety in the background, but you have time to think. And that's your privilege. It's like, I get that you're anxious and worried about this, and I'll talk with the attending again and I'll get back to you. So those are the kinds of things that you can do. All right, this week, I want to invite you to develop a plan for managing communication, especially around Epic My Chart messaging and random phone calls. Establish boundaries. What are the calls that you return right away? What are the calls that can wait 30 minutes after you've accomplished meaningful tasks? What are the calls that you defer till the end of the day? And when you have a plan, then you can more easily recognize the calls as they come in and fit them in that box. And maybe it's difficult to try to juggle all of them. Maybe what you say is, as these calls are coming in, I'm going to give a 15-minute window, and then I'll pick up the pager, look through, call back the most urgent ones, and then reserve the rest for later. Everybody has their own strategy, but what is important is to have a strategy. Imagine if you could be strategic around what communication comes in at certain times. How productive could you be? I'd love to find out. I'll see you in the next video.